Welcome along then to round 5 Invictus Racing League. Here on the Xbox we find ourselves this time in Interlagos here in Brazil. It's a country that shares borders with every other country in South America except for Chile and Ecuador. It's also noted for the only country's flag on the F1 calendar that doesn't have red in it, and I'm sure plenty of the drivers will be trying to see red here today, get across this finish line. Unlike championship leader DJ Danny last week, crashing out at the end, on the last lap, actually, of the German Grand Prix. 36 laps around this 2.67 mile circuit here at Interlagos with 2 DRS zones, which could produce speeds of up to 216 miles an hour, which we could see across either of the 2 DRS zones, which a track that features 15 turns, 5 to the right, 10 to the left, and always remembered for turn 1, the Senna S, always an overtaking opportunity, especially with DRS enabled. You could go from miles back. Turn 4, the Skid del Lago, the hairpin, as you head into the infield, is a particularly difficult place to get overtaking done, but you can do as well. In turn 12, Joncao, as you race back onto the main straight, heading back down into the depths of Brazil. Can people get overtaking done through there and along the main straight as well? It's the C1, the C2, and the C3, about 0.5 of a second slower. The medium compound of tire at 1.5 seconds. The hards has proven a little bit too hard, a little bit too slow. It should be a soft to medium strategy, but with weather always playing a factor here, as it has in many famous classic F1 races, we could be in for quite a slip and slide if the Interlagos clouds decide to open up, the heavens pour down. Could be a very damp track, but DJ Danny still in the place where he has been this entire season, still holding that first place, but it's not by 19 points anymore, it's only by 3 points, and he also carries a 5-second time penalty for failing to abide by the rule that you have to wait to ready up on the grid. So he will carry that 5 seconds into this week after crashing out last week and it not being applied to his time. But the man who has closed that gap, HK, who's take home his first win in IRL, taking home Red Bull's first win in IRL, closing in that gap in second place, and James F1 with his second podium of the season, currently third in the championship, is starting to fall away from the 2 ahead of him. He's also still looking for his first win. Could he find that here in Brazil today? The Constructors, a completely different story to the Drivers' Championship. A double DNF from Renault means they're jumped by not 1, not 2, but 3 teams in the championship, with Racing Point reassuming the lead over a resurgent Red Bull who has pulled ahead of Renault as well. Kendo, with plenty of history, plenty of action-packed events, for sure, for definitely a treat here today before the mid-season break.
Most certainly is, and the fact that, as we seen last week, that spectacular ending truly spun the championship completely on its head. As we've talked about before, a lot of the drivers have been saying DJ Danny is known to keep his cool, keep his head. However, he had a moment of madness last week, and it has brought the rest of the field back into the championship, as you rightly say. And coming up to Brazil, will that be playing a part in his head? As you've been mentioning about the weather, let's see what it's going to bring up, because you've said you have an inkling it's going to be raining. We'll soon find out in just a sec.
It's always fun in Brazil to see the rain pour down, especially at a track that produces relatively quick lap times to the rest of the calendar. How can drivers really handle the track, and with all the twists and the turns, that midfield at Interlagos, how does that affect the drivers here today as we head into qualifying now? It doesn't look like to be raining yet. We'll get a weather report for you here shortly, but kind of at a track like this, if it does start raining, is it potentially a matter of just who's better in the wet, or could we potentially see somebody on a podium that didn't look likely?
Well, end of the day, it's all about being strategic. Potentially, there could be something coming, because a lot of the time when you see a delay with the drivers coming out, there must be something that is going on. So maybe there is going to be some rain in the race. However, as we start to see a few drivers are making their way out on track, going onto the soft, so let's see what sort of lap times that may produce. And
but we do have the weather report in. We do have the weather report in. No rain in the forecast. So, my personal aspirations of trying to become a weatherman have been shot in the foot.
Can only hope.
As we can only go up from here, that's right. As we head out once more, it's actually Murphy who's first out on track with his teammate Miles in the pit lane. Has already fitted those hard tires, as we've seen him do plenty of times this season. For the Alfa Romeos, I don't think it's more about the Drivers' Championship. They're going to really be looking to work together, trying to work their way into that top spot for the Constructors. But before we get to that, Kendo, take us for a lap around Interlagos with Murphy.
With Murphy, okie dokie. So, as he's making his way towards the start-finish, this is the point where it's very, very crucial. You try and get your ERS and DRS up the pole to get across the line. As you come into turn 1, you've got to get right up against that left-hand side to be able to get yourself a lovely slingshot. As you can see, CJ Murphy has done quite a nice drag down the long sweeping double left-hander. So far so good. Let's see how he manages. Does he drop gears? Certainly does. He drops one. Some drivers like to engine brake, as we know. However, he seems to be quite smooth with the throttle and the gears. Now coming into the very technical sector 2, where a lot of time can be gained. As we can see, he's making his way up the final sweep and left-handed to finish this lap. So far it's been so good. He's using up his ERS as much as he can. He's all out of battery. Let's see what sort of time he sets on the board, and he sets the benchmark on a 1:8.680. So there you have it. So that is the benchmark. Let's see how everybody else can respond.
108.6. You can see Lee 108.7. So Sharks 108.8 is first few drivers come across the line. DJ Danny already hopping into that top spot with a 108.2, just absolutely blowing away the previous time set by the Alfa Romeo. And, Liam Hartman in the Haas. It was actually a great start to the season for Haas, picking up a podium in the inaugural race, but their fortunes as of late have not gone their way. Sir Sharks has had his moments, but his teammate Liam Hartman, which we're on board with now, hasn't quite had Kendo the same amount of luck.
No, that's it. End of the day, it's usually a case of can the team be able to work together. As we well know, at the moment in the constructors' standings, the Haas is currently in 5th place on 26 points, so they've got a lot of points to claw back if they want to make their way into the constructors. However, with the drivers, his teammate Scartrick is currently in 5th position.
Hold that thought. DJ Danny picking up a 5-place grid penalty. It looks like an incident potentially with the Toro Rosso. I'm not too sure what exactly has happened. It looks like Liverpool Ewan was now caught up in that. Yeah, he's missing his entire left front wing, so DJ Danny not having a great ending to last week, not having a great start to this week.
It certainly isn't, and you can potentially start to see the mind games being played out right here, right now. The rest of the field is starting to get potentially into Danny's head. So obviously it's not all about the physical driving capability of the driver, it's being able to handle the pressure of your opponents around you. And at the moment, DJ Danny needs to take a little step back, have a little rethink, get his head re-motivated and refocused, because as we know, that 5-second grid penalty is going to hurt him on the start.
Not only does he now have a 5-place grid penalty, he's still carrying a 5-second penalty as well. Actually, one of his teammates is the fastest Sector 1, so maybe a little bit of saving grace for Renault as they try to make the he runs a little bit wide and actually invalidates because of it, just pushing a little bit too hard through that infield section. Will do that to you. The back end just kicked straight out on that Renault, but hop on with the Mercedes of Jamie 29. The Mercedes just haven't quite gotten off the mark so far, Kendo. They've had a few decent outings, but nothing has really turned into a big haul of points. But actually, Jamie 29 setting fastest middle sector there momentarily. He's on the medium tires. Interesting to see what he can come up with for a lap time. He jumps into 9th place, so a good qualifying for Mercedes so far, with both their drivers sitting inside the top 10. It's not often we've been able to say that, but it actually is great to see. In terms of, let's talk about Racing Point for a second, because they haven't had the best individual results, but as a team, they are finishing well up the field, especially last week in Germany.
Exactly that. As we know, Racing Point are currently the constructors on 59 points. So, like you were saying at the start of the introduction, it's not all about sometimes trying to win the race. It's trying to just chip away at the points between you and your teammate. Because I know this personally in a league that I race it, it's all about having that good communication with your teammates, saying, right, we might not be the fastest driver, we've just got to chip away at the points, let's focus on the constructors. And you can clearly see that by the points that they're collecting together.
James F1 was 35 points, Sir Shark's 11 points behind him, but it's at a point where it almost seems like they're more than willing to work together with each other. Even though James F1 is leading his teammate, it doesn't seem like they're much bothered by whoever's in front and whoever's at the rear. James F1, or actually rather Sir Shark's coming across the line now. Another fastest middle sector that we've seen. What can the Racing Point do? Jump up into 3rd position, which will be preliminary 2nd position with DJ Danny on that time penalty. Kendo, I'm trying to figure out if DJ Danny, trying to do another lap as he actually just does so there. A 1:08.0 from the Renault, so he's going to try to maintain himself in the top 10. No, actually Ricardo in that Ferrari, getting in that 5th place as well. HK on his lap actually invalidated. He's going to try again, it looks like. But kind of for DJ Danny, do you actually maybe just sit in the garage here, try to get into that 11th place, and then have fresh tires?
That is definitely an option or a strategy that you can try and play out. You've got to bear in mind, but if you do that, you run the risk of getting yourself in the middle of the pack, and as we well know, incidents can happen. However, so far so good, but it's that balance between taking the risk of going on the alternate strategy or getting fresh tyres, as you say, but the risk is you're in the middle of the pack. So sometimes it's risk for reward, or sometimes it's risk for getting caught up in battles that are unnecessary. So to have to find balance, and it's a risk either way.
Well, we've seen plenty of strategy calls from this man that we're on board with now. HK about to come across the line. Just ahead of his teammate by about 0.3 of a second. HK up into third, both Red Bulls third and fourth, and actually the McLaren HRC, we haven't seen much of this. The McLarens working their way into the top 10, much less the top 5. HRC 0.2 off of DJ Danny actually is our preliminary pole sitter at the moment.
Certainly is, and as we well know, last week was his first race according to the standings. He unfortunately had a DNF, so we haven't been able to see his full potential at this moment in time. But looking at the way he is now, currently, as you rightly say, preliminary pole position, there's going to be potentially a new driver to try and push DJ Danny's buttons.
Find someone to ride on board with. Liverpool Ewan, who was involved with that incident with DJ Danny, setting another fastest middle sector. We're just seeing everyone lighting up that infield area here in Brazil as he comes across the final bend now onto the pit straight. The Toro Rosso on the soft tires goes 7th fastest, which is Toro Rosso 7th and 9th. You're looking pretty much on par how you've been for most of the season. Rimac as well, getting himself into that 5th place as well. So plenty of drivers that we're seeing maybe not hit their potential so far this season. Kendo really starting to light up the timing shirts here at Interlagos.
Exactly that, considering we've had conversations about this off stream, like Rimac on the PlayStation side, a very strong driver, but as you rightly say, for whatever reason, he's just not hitting the heights of the PlayStation. But as we know, game mechanics can be slightly different to how you handle it in different models of the game. But again, it's just a case of being able to adapt, and true champions can adapt quickly.
Another fastest sector, middle sector that is, from Liam Hardman as he comes across the line now in that Haas. What sort of time can he put up? It'll be actually his first time of the session. Only goes 13th fastest. It is worth noting that HK is only 1,000th of a second off from HRC for preliminary pole position. Sir Sharks also on another lap as well. Hopefully that Alfa Romeo doesn't bug him too much as he comes through the middle sector.
Currently purple.
Goes fastest there, drops down to 3rd gear, up into 4th, going through the gears now as he heads back onto the pit straight. We are under 5 minutes now. Sir Sharks coming across the line, improves by 2 positions. Another thing worth noting, just to show how competitive things have been, DXT Lee and the Red Bull and Rimac, identical times.
Ooh. That was interesting. I was keeping an eye on seeing if Miles was potentially on a hot lap there just behind Sir Sharks. It looks like potentially Sir Sharks wasn't quite paying attention. And just as I say that, Miles is just 1 in sector 2. That's very unfortunate for him.
He's on those medium tires that Kendo probably has plenty of time to get back into the pits. I'm not sure how late you think they can hold out for, but most of the drivers now into the pit lane. A few still out on track, like DJ Danny. A few starting their out laps. Sir Sharks looks like he's peeling into the pit lane, one would presume. How long do you think those sitting in the garage currently can wait to start their laps?
Well, the most amount of time I usually leave the FS's 2 minutes 30. So that's, because bear in mind you've got to consider the amount of traffic you have to let people go that's potentially on hot laps. And at the same time, the amount of time it takes you to get physically out of the pitch, you do have to consider that. So even though it looks like 2.5 minutes is quite a lot of time, it's actually not quite. You're usually getting across the start finish with maybe 20 to 10 seconds left to go at a stretch.
Well, here's two teammates potentially trying to work together. The first of them to come across the line, the two Mercedes. Jamie 29, can he improve from that 17th position, which has more or less reflected his performance so far this season, up into 10th. His teammate come across the line, actually now starting his outlap. It's potentially a little bit of a slipstream could be given by the Mercedes here. HK actually looks like he's going to abandon this lap and to have another go at it at the death. Looks like most drivers now out on either an outlap or simply just a rubber in lap. I'm trying to figure out exactly what is going on here. Rimac looks like he's definitely on a lap. He's up in 8th gear now. DRS wide open into overtake, coming across the line, up in 4th for the Renault, sending a fastest 3rd sector. So definitely saving grace potentially for Renault. Looks like the next group to come across here is that Toro Rosso in the grass potentially. He might have just been pulling off to one side. You see the Mercedes do so here. We're still on board with James F1, another fastest middle sector. He's about 6/10 to make up if you want to see himself on pole position. Across the line here, up into 2nd, about a 10th faster than the McLaren. So TJ Danny's 5-place grid penalty if you hadn't tuned in yet for that. As HRC peels into the pit lane, his qualifying is effectively finished. HK on a set of used soft tires, go 3rd fastest. He kicks it into the runoff area over in turn 1. You have anyone else on a lap? Sir Sharks heading through the midfield now, exiting the middle sector. Sets another fastest middle sector. We've seen plenty of that here in qualifying. DJ Danny finish in 1st. How long will that stand? Sir Sharks now looking to improve on his 8th position. Jumps up into 4th. Is HK potentially going to have another go at pole position? Doesn't look like it. He's simply just trotting around the tracks. That will effectively end his qualifying. Is anybody else on a lap? Looks like Murphy's invalidated his.
I do believe Moto is on a hot lap at the moment. He was giving his teammate a tour on the 1st lap because I was watching while you were watching over the other guys. He gave his teammate Leclerc a superb tour the 1st time, and then Leclerc's given him a tour on the 2nd one. And let's see what Moto can do. And he jumps his teammate. 108.7.
Jumps into 14th position. It was another quickest sector that we've seen here so far. So plenty of that going on. We still have, looks like, is that a racing point that is potentially his qualifying looks finished, and this is how it will end, which Danny's 5-place grid penalty after tangling with Ewan in the Toro Rosso gives James F1 provisional pole. We'll see him on pole position here in Brazil. To wrap things up, James F1 on pole position DXT HK right behind him, looking to continue his good form from Germany after securing his first win. Sir Sharks will have the McLaren, who has the first top 5 qualifying of the season for company of HRC. Rimac will have IRL F1 Maniac for company in that Toro Rosso behind him. DXT Lee in the second. Red Bull will start 7th. He'll have DXT Miles for company. Liverpool Ewan and C. Murphy both will be promoted into the top 10. Actually, no, I'm bumping people up that I shouldn't be.
Yeah, bear in mind DJ Dan's got 5 place penalties, so he will move down to P6. So from Rimac above will all move up. So it's interesting to see how close the top 10 is. Everyone pretty much under a second. That is absolutely incredible. The amount of speed that all of them were carrying, and it's going to be interesting to see if it can carry that into the race and being able to manage the tyres, because that's going to play a huge part in this race today.
Well, that does give the opportunity for Murphy to actually go on the medium tires. He qualified on the softs, but outside of the top 10 being that he'll have free tire choice. Likes of both Ferraris, who couldn't even make it into the top 15 this time around. We've seen flashes of Ferrari brilliance here this season, but it hasn't really turned into exactly what we've wanted to see out of them. I think we expected a little bit more from Ferrari, Kendo.
Certainly had. I was fully expecting to see Ricciardo being able to produce a lot better than what he has, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I race alongside him, so I know the quality he has. However, he isn't always steady on his feet, as the saying goes. Not always reliable, and he's prone to making mistakes. He's really quick, and he's a very big talent, but he needs to be able to put it all together. Can he do it today?
Well, for the team at the bottom of the Constructors, McLaren, is this the race before the mid-season break that gives them momentum into the second part of the season to really give them a platform to start to build upwards? Obviously, they're probably already potentially eliminated from more or less championship contention, but is this what they needed to just work their way back into that midfield battle?
Certainly is. End of the day, considering it's like in any sort of sport, it's all about the mind games. If you can get into your opponent's head and making you think, right, I am coming after you, people ahead of you have to watch their backs. So it's all a matter of, can you get into your opposition's head? And hopefully, with a solid performance today, that switch can be flicked on.
No, we're still waiting for the drivers to ready up on the grid, as they've started to do so now. I tend to believe that this is Racing Point's race to lose, more or less. They seem to have firm control here, both drivers into the top 3, and they could do extremely well with working together to try to battle with HK and keep him behind and get Sir Sharks up into that second position.
Yeah, 110% on that one. It's for myself, I would be rather wanting to work together. As you see, that constructors battle is really, really close. Can you gain the advantage? Can you allow Sir Sharks to just do James a little bit of a favour? Because bear in mind, James F1 is on 35 points and HK is on 39.5. So it goes to show that there's not a lot in the title at the current point of standings, considering the mistake Danny did last week, and as we well know, the 5 grade penalty and the 5 seconds that he will have at the end of the race. He needs to do something spectacular today to be able to pull ahead. And can he do that?
This driver's head around on the formation lap, trying to get those soft tires up to temperature, I believe. Almost everybody has started on the soft compounded tire except Murphy, who we actually guessed might have gone onto the mediums, and Scartrix, who didn't qualify for the second week in a row, on the mediums as well, starting from 20th and last. How can those two Renaults, who will be starting next to each other, work their way up the field? Will Rimac simply concede the position to his other teammate, DJ Danny? They try to battle that one out. Rimac hasn't had the best of luck over on the Xbox side as of late. His fortunes turn here today. James F1 doing a great job just backing that pack up, not letting him get too far behind, as to simply air him out on the grid. So we approach now, being held for quite a bit of time. We're actually still forming up at the back of the grid.
There you go.
Lights come on here. We are racing in Brazil. James F1 gets a great start, as does his teammate, but HK holding that inside line. They head into turn 1. Sir Sharks up into second position. They're still wheel to wheel, pushing that Red Bull to the inside, but HK regaining that second position. We have a spinner, it looks like. It could be a Toro Rosso. It is a Williams. It is a Toro Rosso. It is, looks like both Williams were caught up in that incident. No safety car as of yet. James F1 has almost jumped out to a 1-second lead. His teammate helping drag HK back into the field. And that's actually just invited HRC into that battle as well. You saw it there. Both Williams, a Mercedes, and a Toro Rosso get caught up in that incident. The other Toro Rosso up into 9th place currently as things stand. But Rimac actually doing well to keep his teammate at bay. He's about 2/10 behind him as he looks to actually runs wide there, and that'll surely lose him a place, and maybe 2, maybe 3. As they headed out of that final corner, he just outbroke himself. Now the Alfa Romeo all over the tail of that Renault as they head down back into turn 1 as they cross the line. James F1 from HK, from Sharks, from HRC. Now DJ Danny up into 5th. Rimac falling all the way down into 8th position. It's a horrendous start for one of the Renaults and a decent one for the others. Rimac had a little bit of a look there. Nothing was really happening there as of yet. Liam Hardman getting past the Toro Rosso. We've highlighted that could have been an overtaking maneuver. Is another, actually a Ferrari is now getting interested. Ricardo all over the tail of that Toro Rosso. We send it up the inside. Actually may have tagged him ever so slightly. 29 is corrected already. A 3-second time penalty. I thought things for Mercedes might have been going uphill. And it's only an uphill battle that they have to face. Other news around the track. James F1 1.1 seconds already. His lead. Sir Sharks about 7/10 adrift of the Red Bull. Things have calmed down ever so slightly as DRS is now enabled. The big letterboxes can now open down the main straight and the back straight as well, as long as you're within 1 second of the car in front. And the Ferrari of Leclerc have a little bit of a look at the Mercedes. He has that inside line here. They nearly touch heading into turn 4 as they swoop into turn 5 into the midfield section. Ferraris really needed to get out of the way is definitely a corner cut there from the Mercedes, trying desperately to hold on to that position. It's only for 15th, but you can see, Kendo, just how much every single position means, still with about 33 laps to go.
Exactly right, and when we're talking about Leclerc, he was part of the incident that dropped down the likes of Jamie and Maniac as we went into turn 2. There was a coming together of the Mercedes and of the Prix, which set off a domino effect, so potentially something for the stewards to be looking at the end of the race, with some trackside information at the back.
Lee is peeled into the pit lane. I don't think that's a scheduled stop, but he's got onto the hard tires. It's relegated him all the way down the field. If it does anything, it's starting to show the gap between the top 5 and the rest of the field. We saw the pace in qualifying. DJ Danny with the fastest lap here so far, about 2/10 faster than our current leader. If that doesn't show his pace, I'm not entirely sure what will, as he begins to close in on the McLaren. HRC is now really under attack from DJ Danny as they head back onto the main straight once more. He left DRS, which is extremely powerful here in Brazil, but it doesn't help the fact that HRC has the racing point in front of him for DRS himself as they all maintain their position heading into the Senna S yet again. In the Mercedes, making his way up into 13th place, overtaking PJ, and the other McLaren who hasn't had the same amount of luck as his teammate here so far, Maniac, now into the pit lane as well. I wonder if this could potentially be a wing change for the Toro Rosso. Looks like it is. He was caught up in that earlier incident, which saw 3 or 4 cars go spinning, but Scartrix all the way up. Oh, as they make contact, but they both hang it in there. Murphy holding that 11th position. He's under loads of pressure from Scartrix for that 11th position. Both drivers on the medium tire. Scartrix gaining 8 positions here already, 5 laps in, starting from back of the grid. How long can Murphy keep that racy Haas behind him? One might wonder, but DJ Danny still close. Oh, Scartrix has spun. He's completely spun on his own as they head back onto the main straight. The yellow flag in sector 3 for him, and all that momentum he had going forward has been absolutely eliminated in the span of about 5 seconds.
Yeah, he completely caught the outside of the curve on the far right and just put far too much acceleration on at the right, just at the wrong time, should I say. I was about to say at the right time. And because of that, as you quite rightly seen, he went round in a donut. So, unfortunately, the good work that you rightly pointed out, he made them impressive gains from starting at the back of the grid all the way down to 18, as we see Leclerc and Matt.
We have another spinner as well. Matt's putting the throttle down and running wide there again. He's lost 1 position. He might lose another to the McLaren behind him, who's both Williams really having a look at that McLaren now.
After blood.
After blood, indeed. Ferramoto all over that McLaren's gearbox. See it here, weaving, trying to break that slipstream. PJ now pulling out to the outside. We'll go 3 wide as we head into turn 1, but it's PJ that comes out ahead, but Ferramoto still holding that inside line.
Leclerc's coming in as well.
Come out on top, and Jamie 29 now has interest in this battle now as well.
Wow.
They're battling tooth and nail for every single position. They bang wheels as they head into the middle sector. But it's Ferramoto who jumps about 4 positions in the span of as many corners. And now Jamie is going to have a little look at the Williams His teammate running ever so slightly wide. Will that open the door for Leclerc in that Williams as well? He's still hanging around in there.
I was just about to say, during that battle, one of them has picked up wing damage. I'm not quite sure who it is, so it's going to be interesting to see.
It looks like it's Mats. He's missing his right front end plate. We've seen him leave the track about 3 or 4 times now. As his teammate, two teammates battling it out here. Will they switch positions? Will they race this one out? They both have DRS, but Jamie 29 doesn't have as much of a slipstream as he pulls to the outside, does his teammate. Out the outside, they make a little bit of contact. These 4 are still scrapping away for every single inch of track. It is great to see, even at the back. You can see them again. They bang wheels, the 2 teammates. Matt swooped across Jamie 29 and booted his teammate off track, which in Vettel and Leclerc's style, except this time it didn't quite end up in a flurry of sparks. It's simply secured Matt's that 14th place at the moment as he makes contact ever so slightly with Fairmoto. Jamie is again going to have another look at his teammate. Will back out of it. Will actually spin into the wall as he's left the track.
Scott Picks joined the party.
PJ and Scartrix will both get past the McLaren is just coming back to the track there. It is absolute insanity at the back here. Rimac peeling into the pit lane as things have somewhat calmed down ever so slightly. Battling at 14th, 13th position before final them drivers at the back. Great job. Rimac has gone onto the hard tire, so an early pit stop from the Renault. It's dropped him all the way down into 16th. We didn't expect to see the hards, but we're seeing 2 drivers already onto them here.
And that's all due to tyre management, considering if you can push them soft compounds up to around about lap 12, potentially 13 at a push if you can. That's going to make it a whole lot easier on their medium tyres on the second stint. However, you're starting to see a lot of drivers starting to hurt on them tyres, and it's going to be more so of them drivers who were superbly battling with one another, as DJ Danny, as we talked about pitting, has just gone in the pits.
DJ Danny into the pit lanes. Looks like it's the medium tires on that Renault. Where will he rejoin the track? He'll have to do about 26 laps on those mediums. We expected the softs to potentially go a little bit longer, but it looks like maybe increased track temperatures have not helped the drivers here today. We have potentially an incident. It looks like both the Williams doing a great job of making their way up the field past Scartrix, who spun early, but will the Haas have a little look at Fairmoto, who gets pinned to the inside line. Scartrix is certainly going to have another look at the Williams. Will he send it up the inside here on this occasion? But he might do so into the next corner. Will he send it up the inside? There he does so indeed. Scartrix hanging on to that 13th position for dear life. Fairmoto isn't going to let him go without having another look. Now it looks like Scartrix has secured that 13th position, and Kenda, that might signal to the rest of the field that the mediums are starting to cross over and become faster than these 9 or 10 lap old soft tires.
Yeah, 100% you can tell that's the difference, and that is why Scartrix is having to battle so hard, because there's only so many laps and medium tyres are in the sweet zone, and that is at the moment the point where Scartrix is in right now, as he makes a lovely move past Leclerc, and he's on his way into 12, and he's stretching out the gap.
Scartrix passed both Williams. It'll be interesting, and I'm sure everybody racing on track at the moment is going to see how long can Scartrix hold out on those medium tires. We saw potentially an early stop from DJ Danny. I don't think it's going to be a bit of a project in that Renault to get those mediums all the way to the end. So we've crossed the line to start lap 12 now. I think Kendo here in maybe a lap or two's time, I think the pit window is going to really open for everybody on the soft tires. But for Murphy, up into 9th place, 2.5 seconds adrift from the rest of the field. It has started to fan out now. As you can see, DJ Danny getting past the Ferrari on those much newer medium tires. Definitely could be time to head into the pits for the top 8. Kendo, I'm not too sure how the hards are going to react. I can only imagine those went on due to early contact. I don't think those are going to be the tires that anybody really wants to be on.
Definitely not. They will be screaming at the drivers at the very end, especially Lee. His tyres will be absolutely screeching. But it's interesting to see, and I know it's something that we don't normally see, but it looks like the top 3 are not trying to challenge each other. They are trying to pull away from Danny. And it looks, because you can definitely tell HK is not challenging Lee. Oh,
Jamie 29 has found the wall. The virtual safety car has been deployed, and that has come out in an extremely poor location for James F1 and the rest of this top 4. You see one Williams peel into the pit lane. How many more will follow him? A McLaren now into the pit lane. We'll have to see how long this virtual safety car stays out on track.
AJ pits as well. Leclerc's gone on the hard compound. Interesting. Let's see what AJ goes on. He's gone on the hards as well.
Those will comfortably go to the end. If you're DJ Danny and you're seeing this, is it potentially this virtual safety car has come in racing once more? If you're DJ Danny, Kendo, is that not a good sign? Because that might signal to you that you've been on the wrong tire.
May well be, due to the fact that you can clearly tell the fact that Danny has decided he has to do something different. He has to make the plays, considering he has to bear in mind he started off 5 positions down, and he also had that 5 seconds. So you can start to see the pressure that DJ Danny is feeling, as we talked about at the start of the race. It's all about getting into your opponent's head, and at the moment, DJ Danny has got to do something different. I don't think their mediums are going to last. He might have to be forced to pit again. If he stays out on them tyres, it's going to be a heck of a drive from DJ Danny.
Is it potentially... Is he planning a 2-stop here? Is he just hoping for a late safety car to give him that cheap pit stop?
Yeah, that's it. End of the day, you've got to try something different. You've got to, as we would say, risk it for a biscuit or risk for a reward. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, sometimes it does. At the moment, we assume the strategy is not going to work out with DJ Danny. However, he could pull something out of the bag and produce a really good race. However, at this point in time, lap 15 of 36, you've got HK that is currently leading the race after James F1 has now gone up into the pit and put on their medium compound tyres, and you've got HK and Sir Sharks out in front. But bear in mind, Sir Sharks' teammate has just gone in the pit, so they couldn't do the double stack, because that would hurt both the drivers in terms of the constructors.
Well, the split between them was only about 1.5 seconds, so no matter how fast, it would have to have been a world record pit stop from the Racing Point crew in order to get both cars in. I don't think even the Red Bull pit crew could manage a 1.5 second pit stop, but that puts HK in the lead of this race, who we saw actually tail James F1 all the way into the pit lane. Potentially may have wanted to pit himself, but decided to stay out and actually pit opposite of the Racing Point. It'll be interesting to see if he peels in now. Looks like he is doing so. That's exactly what happened there. And Sir Sharks will peel right behind him.
And Miles as well.
Will that Miles as well. So 14 laps seems to be the limit on the soft tires.
You have decided to carry on. He's going 15 laps onto them softs. Let's see if he can hold that off, because if he can, and he can do that successfully, it could turn out to be a vital advantage coming towards the end of the race with them lap pressure tyres at the end.
Well, DJ Danny has gotten himself into second place.
Ooh.
Which he's made his stop already, but as we've discussed probably at length, we don't think those tires that he pitted onto at lap 10 are going to last to the end, so he has to gain plenty of time behind him, not only about 23 seconds, between 23 and 28 seconds to make his stop, and he has to put another 5 seconds on top of that if he wants to have any hope of this race. I don't think that's going to work.
No, at end of the day, he has to do something, an incredible drive, and we know he has the ability to produce. It's being able to produce the goods under the pressure, and just as we say that, James F1 has just set the fastest lap of the 110.850 on lap 17 out of 36.
Well, Murphy has done 16 laps on his set of medium tires. He started on those, he's still on them, but he has a whole host of cars behind him who have made their stop and are starting to close in behind him. Looks like Fairmoto into the pit lane as well for Williams. Things have ever so slightly calmed down here in Brazil, but we do know Kendo with this bunch is never calm.
No.
Has HRC actually managed to jump past James F1? It looks like he has. He picked up a 3-second time penalty at some point, but if I'm doing my math correctly, after the next round of pit stops, HRC will lead this race.
Only one way to find out, and that's by, as you say, seeing how people do pan out, considering, as we talked about earlier on, CJ Murphy and Scartrix were kind of a benchmark on their medium tyres, being able to see how long that vehicle could go into the race. I know a lot of drivers might not necessarily be seeing what's going on, however the likes of the McLaren and the Renault will be able to have that information, and the same with the Alfa Romeo in terms of seeing Scartrix go into the pit, and that will give the drivers who have just come out on them fresh tyres a good indication on where their limit is, and they need to then be able to consider the tyre management if they are going to exceed that amount of laps.
We're about to complete half distance here in Brazil. DJ Danny leading the race as things stand. He pitted 5 laps earlier than the rest of the field. That coming into play as we head to the later stages of this race. James F1 having a little look around the outside, setting the fastest lap on this occasion. Holding his line well, but that actually is now going to invite HK into the party. Will he have the slipstream and the DRS? HRC moving to the inside. Will the Racing Point be able to get that move done? The McLaren holding that inside line, still holding it. There's still wheel to wheel as we head up into the midfield section of the track. The Racing Point going to let this one pass for now. McLaren nearly opened the door there for James F1. HRC with some solid defending, holding that 3rd position for now. A few more movements. Miles past Scartrix. Looks like Ricardo into 11th place. Lee up into 12th. HK is really going to fancy his chances at James F1, who's getting held up behind HRC ever so slightly. We have a bit of lost wing. I don't know if it's a back end get trickled away. I wonder if that is actually that's part of HK's league. He's lost his right front end plate.
Oh no!
And how could that affect this race? A little bit of damage. You can see him already losing time to the racing point in front of him. Now he was 2/10 behind. Now he's about half a second. And James F1 surely get the move done this time. Has the inside line. He's going to break late. No, he's going to make contact with Murphy. Both drivers with a great bit of skill to keep the car on the track. It was a bit of a lunge from Murphy. James rather, he probably didn't mean to have a look at the Alfa Romeo in front of him. He ended up making contact with him. Anyway, HK now up into 4th place. HRC down into 5th. He's lost 2 positions in about as many corners. And I'm wondering now, Kendo, it doesn't look like there's any damage to the racing point. But DJ Danny has raced out to a 5.1 second lead over the rest of the field. Murphy actually hasn't pitted yet either, so it'll be interesting to see at what point, Kendo, do you think Murphy needs to peel into the pit lane? He's done 20 laps now as he come across the line to start lap 21. James now getting past the Alfa Romeo, doing it comfortably before the first corner. And HK makes contact! HK and Murphy making contact. The Red Bull has spun around, and that, I'm not sure if that was a reset to track or if that game did it for him. But what's gone from hasn't been great for HK. It was great last week, but now he's down into 8th place, seeing himself relegated all the way down the field. Not what Red Bull wanted. They had their hopes high after last week. It doesn't look like he's taken any more damage than he already has. Certainly won't be doing those tires. Then he gets Scartrix up into 4th position.
It's crazy to think the fact that he started all the way to the back and Scartrix has even spun on there. With bear in mind he is still on them 20 lap old tires. That just goes to show the rest of the field that you can push these tires to the limit, as we see C Murphy coming into the pit. He has had enough on their medium tyres. Scartrix is going on, because I was just about to, before that major incident, as we all seen on the stream, Murphy's tyres, you could clearly see were going off into that turn 1, and maybe that set off a slight chain reaction to what we see with HK having to slow down because of Murphy not quite getting acceleration out in turn 1 and 2.
Well, HRC into the pit lane for McLaren. Everyone who just pitted under this green flag onto the soft tires. So they will more or less be good to go to the end. They did about 14 laps on them to start the race. How many can they do on them to finish the race? It'll be about 14 to the finish line. Here's Liam Hartman. His ghost car gets overtaken once more. Now HRC is going to be behind the Williams. And DXT HK also picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane when he came in as well.
Scartrix, I should say. Just to keep everyone up to date.
Scartrix into the pit lane. So 22 laps is the highest we've seen, Kendo. Those mediums go as far as distance.
Yeah.
Can DJ Danny, who's going to have to do, if I'm doing a little bit of quick mental math, he's going to have to do about 26 laps on the mediums. About 4 laps more than probably recommended. HK, another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. You wonder if he might just retire the car here. It doesn't look like he's having the best of times. He's mediums yet again. Maybe it was one of those things where he didn't have his wing changed in his first pit stop. And unfortunately for the Red Bull driver, having to peel back into the pit lane again and have them take care of that. But he sees himself well adrift of the field now. 16.5 seconds he sees to the Toro Rosso of Maniac. And for one Toro Rosso, it hasn't been the greatest of days, and for the other, Liverpool Ewan finds himself in 5th place. A great result for as a team and for Liverpool Ewan himself.
Most certainly is, considering the fact that we would class them as a little bit of a potential underdog in a sense in this championship. He's currently P8 in the standings on 18 points. You can see potentially if he can string a few good results and his opponents at the front, similar to what HK has had unfortunate incidents. He can
Leclerc's off! Leclerc, after battling with Murphy, spun into the wall. It didn't appear there was contact there. The Alfa Romeo may have swiped across the Ferrari, which sent Leclerc spinning into the wall.
That's unfortunate.
Safety car has been deployed.
Ooh.
How will that change this race?
Will Danny
You might
pit?
wonder. Well, I feel like Danny's gone well past the pit lane already. Unfortunate to come all the way back around. And Sir Shark's into the pit lane. Rimac into the pit lane. It's a great time for the safety car for Renault in general. The hards come off. The softs go on. Where will Rimac funnel back in to the safety car queue? He has a McLaren coming up on track behind him. He has a Red Bull behind him as well. Looks like we're going to race this one out of the pit lane. Rimac is going to get ahead of the McLaren of HRC. Looks like there's a Red Bull there as well. He blazed past the safety car, a whole host of cars into the pit lane as well. But it looks like right on board with DJ Danny now. Will he come into the pit lane? But now the likes of Scartrix, who's up into 5th place now. DJ Danny into the pit lane.
Let's see if the rest of them do. Looks like James F1 is also joining the pits. Will Miles join as well? Yes, he does. It looks like
Liverpool Ewan stay out? No, he'll head into the pit lane. So just about everyone who didn't just pit about a lap or two ago going into the pit lane. The only two that stayed out, Ferramoto and Maniac, who on 8-lap old and 6-lap old medium tires respectively, they're still good to go to the end of this race. Kendo, one could say it's played into DJ Danny's hands because he sees him in the lead of this race, but remember, he has 5 seconds he has to deal with. James F1 is going to be right on his tail all the way to the end. He currently holds the fastest lap, and the two of them essentially trading fastest laps here this entire contest.
All I'm going to say is, wow, the difference between a safety car coming out has completely changed the game. We were just talking about the pressure that DJ Danny must be under, and it's being flipped completely on its head with HK down in P19. The pressure is on him now, and DJ Danny is in pole position. He's the one holding all the cards, and he's currently laughing in P1 as it currently stands. But as you rightly say, James F1 and Scartrix, because bear in mind Scartrix has come a long way as well, as we see HK getting a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. He's just gotten shooting through. Wow.
Well, he's trying to unlap himself. I'm trying to figure out. HK picked up another 5-second penalty, so yeah, I believe HK will now be disqualified, as you see there. Will he actually be disqualified? Sometimes disqualified cars don't always drive through penalties, just racking up the penalties now. We're not too sure if that is supposed to happen or what the deal is there. But it looks like HK is still in this race, so even after being shown the black flag, he races on here. We could see Kendo maybe, I think, another lap around this track here under the safety car before we go green. Again, we're still waiting on McLaren of PJ to catch up to the rest of the pack, along with HK and this Red Bull that we're on board with here. As things go for Racing Point, so Sharks has fresher tires than the driver in front of him. He knows he has more pace than Rimac. Probably could say the same for Liverpool Ewan, but if you're DXT Miles or Scartrix, you're in a perfect position for potentially going for a podium here.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable to think the fact that, as you rightly say, with Scartrix starting all the way last on the grid, and as you've just been saying about the safety car earlier, maybe doing another lap.
Safety car's in this lap.
Yeah. So now Danny is punching the field up.
DJ Danny really looking as he pulls away ever so slightly. Hasn't quite gone yet. He's thinking about it, DJ Danny. He hasn't gone yet. When will he pin that throttle? Right there. He pins it. And we might go 3 wide into turn 1 already as they bunch up yet again. Scartrix down the inside, it looks like, of James F1, and now Miles and Scartrix are going to duel it out down the back straight. Who will come out on top? Miles with the inside line. Will he get lunged down the inside? Yes, he does. Alfa Romeo up into 3rd position. Here on this restart, HK back into the pit lane. He has a whole host of penalties to serve. DJ Danny has already sprung out to about a 1 second gap to James F1 at the front. Renault peeling away. I wonder, Kendo, if we think back to the restart, I wonder if the stewards might have a little look at that restart, because if I understand the rule correctly, you can't go and then stop and then go again. And it almost looks like DJ Danny may or may not have done that. But I'm sure a few people will have a few things to say about that after the race, but as things stand.
Danny's gone wide.
Danny's gone wide as he's, well, a few more cars in the pit lane. Maniac Ferramoto into the pit lane, and now James F1 all over the gearbox of the Renault. He peels to the outside, maintaining that position. He's lost the Toro Rosso on F1 Maniac. He joins Jamie 29 in retiring from Brazilian Grand Prix. And now Miles is going to have another look at James F1, and Kendo, we could have the type of finish that we saw last week as HK has retired from the session as well. We could see the same type of finish that we saw last week in Germany here in Brazil. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was just chuckling myself there, completely agreeing with them comments there. You've got the top 5 battling it out within a second of each other. DRS will be enabled now and let the party get started. Wow, looking forward to this. Get the popcorn out, everyone.
Miles is about 3/10 behind the Racing Point. James F1 is about 8/10 adrift from DJ Danny, but he doesn't have the help of the drag reduction system down that back straight and into the infield section now. One is inclined to think that James F1 is going to feel like that late safety car robbed him of his first Invictus Racing League victory here today. And DJ Danny is strolling along nicely. That safety car came out in almost a perfect time for the Renault driver, Rimac, up in the 6th place as well. So a great rebound all around after a double DNF in Germany. Potentially one winner and one finishing inside the points.
Now, the question's going to remain for me within this top 4. Bear in mind, Scartrix is on 8-lap all tyres. We've seen he is extremely...
Oh, and the McLaren's around! HRC in the Senna S has found a way to lose it. You're on board with Sir Sharks and Lee in that Red Bull. The safety car won't be needed here. HRC back underway again. It was going so well for McLaren here tonight has ended in both their drivers outside of the points. HRC in pole position at one point, but now
unbelievable,
finding themselves all the way down the field. And another team just snake bitten here so far in this first half of the season has not gone well for McLaren. James F1, meanwhile, at the back, at the front of the field, rather, 1.5 seconds behind. He currently, as things stands, leads this race more or less due to DJ Danny's 5-second time penalty. Kendo, I'm not sure if James F1 has any on-track penalties himself. I haven't seen one pop up for him. Sir Sharks still in 8th place, hunting down Lee, who has actually gotten past the racing point and is starting to pull away ever so slightly. They are both going to be chasing down Rimac now. Kendo, I don't know if you're able to pull up the penalties for James F1 if he has any indeed.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and I've got it pulled up. As it currently stands, he has 2 warnings on lap 19 and 20, so if he gets one more exceeding track limits, that is him in the penalty.
We see quite a save from DXT Miles. He locked the rear tires and almost became our 4th spinner of the day. A good save from the Alfa Romeo. He's put himself still in the podium. So Sharks picking up a 3-second time penalty in his pursuit of the Red Bull in front of him. We're still on board now with DXT Miles. This is the battle for the lead here between James F1, DXT Miles, and Scartrix. All three less than 5 seconds behind DJ Denny. James F1 holding that inside line is James F1 with the inside line. Miles is going to say that he forced him off the track. James in the racing point is going to say that he had the right to the corners. They nearly touch again there, but now Scartrix, with 3-lap older tires, is going to be invited to this battle effectively for the lead. What it's doing, Kendo, is allowing DJ Danny to extend his lead out front. And she mentioned just a moment ago, if James F1 gets another warning, he'll only be 3/10 in front of the leader, DJ Danny. Actually, no, it'll be another 2 seconds by matches. All over the place. DXT Miles peeling to the outside. He'll have the outside line, which quickly becomes the inside. DXT Miles up into 2nd place. James F1 is surely going to have a thing or two to say about that. He's peeling to the outside. Nothing happening on this occasion. Scartrix just hanging back. Looks like they're still wheel to wheel ever so slightly. Alfa Romeo and the Racing Point.
Yeah, and when we've been talking about the penalties, bear in mind, Miles has also got, I don't know how he hasn't got an actual time penalty. It says he's got 3 warnings according to the chart on his race director. 3 warnings, but not a penalty. Oh, and James has just picked up that crucial 3-second penalty, so that puts them 6 seconds adrift of Danny. So that is potentially his race victory done right there. Scartrix has also got 2 warnings, so 1 more from him, and he gets a 3-second penalty as well. So it's very tight up there between 2nd and 4th, or 2nd, 3rd and 4th. 1 little mistake, and that's your victory done.
Well, as things stand, actually, Miles wins this race. James finishes in second as we are halfway through the penultimate lap here. Scartrix with a 3-second penalty. That won't help his podium chances. They need to be, now, for James at least, he needs to get within 2 seconds of DJ Danny in order to carry that either a second position finish or a first. There's a few more battles at the back have fizzled out ever so slightly. DXT Miles is now 3.1 seconds adrift. That puts James F1 down into third position effectively as a player actually in the Ferrari, setting the fastest lap down in 17th place with plenty of clear track to work with as we head into the final lap of the race. Can James F1 get past DXT Miles? Will Scartrix have a look at the racing point as they head through the Senna S one final time? Miles trying to break that slipstream any way he can. He doesn't have the help of DRS, but he manages to keep both James F1 and Scartrix behind him. It'll be fascinating to see where everyone finishes here in Interlagos. You see there, DJ Danny coming into the third sector now. We're still on board with James F1 and DXT Miles. This battle for second place, Scartrix running ever so slightly wide, but DJ Danny, no matter where he finishes, a 5-second penalty, a 5th-place grid penalty, has done well to work himself all the way into this position. It was a timely safety car as he comes across the line to finish first here in Brazil. Where will DXT Miles finish? James F1 nearly nipping the Alfa Romeo on the line of Liverpool. Ewan up into third place, a great result for Toro Rosso. It'll be interesting to see where DJ Danny finishes. He's definitely on the podium, but Miles is currently the effective winner of this race. Liverpool Ewan, doing my math correctly, will maintain third position. James F1,
yeah, I was just about to
feel frostbitten.
Because if you have a look at how the interval is from the leader, it's got DXT Miles 3.765 seconds behind DJ Danny. Liverpool Ewan is 5.2, so he's just outside that 5-second window. So unfortunately, by the looks of things, he does not jump Danny in the standings overall in this race.
Well, it's a 4th podium for DJ Danny, and what a way to do it. And with basically everything against him, he managed to not only cross the line first, but still manage to see himself on the podium. And what a way to do it.
It just goes to show he's... Well, ask the question, can he respond to the pressure? And we've had our answer right there. When it was all stacked against him, he's been able to come on top in the race. And what a drive.
Well, for DXT Miles, who wins here at Brazil, how does that affect not only him, but Alfa Romeo in the Constructors' Championship after probably not the racing point we're hoping to finish with? You can see there, Scartrix finishing all the way down in 8th position in confirmation of James F1's 3-second time penalty. He's definitely going to feel like this one was robbed away from him.
It just goes to show it's all based on penalties. Can you keep it clean? And Scartrix had a really excellent drive from the back of the grid, but penalties hurt you. And it's clearly shown that the fact that the field is so close at the front of that pack there, the quality of the drivers, one little mistake can change the lead, change the positions drastically. And hats off to the guys keeping it together at the end.
Well, Kendo, if you could usher the three of them into the party here. I think we see almost the reverse of last week in Germany, where DJ Danny spun on the final lap and retired in the wall, leading to HK, allowing him to win comfortably, which reignited certainly the battle for first, top the Drivers' Championship. But we see the reverse here this week. DJ Danny making his charge from about the middle of the field, and HK, after a few incidents, retiring in the pit lane, not finishing in the points. I mean, it's interesting to see who is going to be able to actually start to pull away, if anybody is.
Yeah, it's all down to being able to keep your head in the game, as we discussed after the disappointment of last week's race. Would DJ Danny be able to keep his head in the game? And as it currently stands, it goes to show sign of a champion is being able to keep your head in the game when the pressure is up against you. And he was able to do that tonight with everything against him, but he can still deliver the goods.
Well, Miles, we'll start with you as we're waiting for our final podium driver to hop into the party. Miles, what a way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not starting at P9. It was tricky because once I got past, I think it was all the front runners were like 2-3 seconds ahead, and they were just slipstreaming each other, so it was hard to catch up. So I just had to wait and see what happened, and then there was a collision between HK and another driver. I couldn't see who it was, which is unfortunate. But overall, it was a good race, I feel.
And how much did the safety car there, almost a replay of last week in Germany where the late safety car changed the entire dynamic of the race? How much did it affect you starting from 9th, your teammates starting in 11th? How much did that help not only yourself but you guys as a team?
It helped because I think Murphy, he pitted just as the safety car came out, and which brought him closer into the top 10, because if not, he would have come out way behind, so it helped us. And I was sitting in 4th at the time, 5 seconds behind, I think it was Liverpool Ewan or James. And then when it came out, it brought the field together, which is quite nice and helped for the final few laps.
Well, DJ Danny, over to you. 5-place grid penalty, 5-second penalty, and you still somehow managed to finish on the podium.
Yeah, it's P2, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, qualifying was interesting. That was just a silly mistake by myself, but then starting P6, it just meant I knew that I was quicker than some of the guys, but once you're in that slipstream train, it's quite hard to get past. So I took the opportunity to go pit on lap 9, which allowed me to jump them all. But I knew that I think most of the guys were going to be on a one-stop strategy. So I decided to switch to a 2, and the safety car actually came out the lap I was going to pit. So it pretty much gave me perfect timing. And then I was pulling away, and I could see that the gap was getting bigger. It was going like 2.2, but I knew it wasn't big enough, so I was kind of hoping that Miles and James would battle a bit more. But I don't know what happened with James in terms of any penalties or anything like that. But I knew if I had a couple of more laps, I think I could have pulled away and got that 1.3 second gap that I needed. But frustrating, but P2, I'll take that, and I extend the championship lead, so that's all good.
Well, how much of a boost is this not only for you but your teammate, for yourself to extend that championship lead over HK, who retired in this race with about 10 laps to go, especially after last week, which was a double DNF for Renault as a whole team.
I mean, Germany couldn't have gone any more wrong, to be honest. But this week we've come back a lot stronger. Obviously, I had the pace to win, but obviously with that penalty from last week, it P2, and I don't know where Malc finished, but it was some good points for the team, and it means we can get back on track, and hopefully this can continue.
Well, your teammate finished 6th.
So yeah, that is a very good result for Renault actually. P2 and P6, I will take that. Hopefully it can be P1 next week, and yeah, go from there.
Well, let me know if you're racing, because I'm not aware of any race next week. We reach the mid-season break now, and Danny, it was probably the first half of the season goes to you, but Miles, in terms of the second half of the season, is this a great starting point to really leapfrog into that second half of the season?
Yeah, hopefully I can string together a couple of results, because that's back-to-back podiums now. So I'll see if I can maintain it and put in a title challenge, because Danny and HK are very fast, so we'll have to see what happens with the next couple tracks.
Alrighty. Well, like I said, no racing next week. Miles, Danny, congratulations to the two of you. Liverpool Ewan, who finished in third. Toro Rosso's first podium of the season. Congratulations to him. Like I said, no racing next week. We'll see you after that. And lads, anything more to say?
Just see you next week. Not next week, in 2 weeks, sorry.
In 2 weeks.
Have a nice little break, everyone. Recharge your
I-
batteries, get ready to go once again. Like I say, congratulations on the three on the podium from myself, and hopefully everyone has a nice week off to recharge and get ready to go again for the second half of the season.
Alrighty. Well, as we head into the mid-season break, we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.